consent?
You do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, people are joining. I can see that we already have 16 people have joined. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining the panel discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about interesting topic, personalized selling in digital banking. Now we had already like a 5 minute discussion with the speakers, and I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion on this topic because there are like these opposite opinions, and also we were discussing like personalized selling. Is it something that we want, or how does it work? And etc. I will do now a little introduction about the panel discussion, what's going to be the process, etc. Please, if you can, write me right now in the chat that you can hear us and see us. If the audio is okay, if the video is okay, and stuff like that, that would really help me. And also, for example, where you're from, something like that. There is a possibility to ask questions to the speakers. So we will be discussing 4 main topics. One is like an introduction to this topic. Second one is about channels that are used for this personalized selling, then data that have been used, and basically the practical stuff, how the personalized selling is done. And then lastly, the targeting and groups and stuff like that. But I want this to be as interactive as possible, so feel free to ask any question to any speakers. And for that, use the either public chat or Q&A that is next to the chat. Also, we have a pool, so be present. I will be sharing a pools where you can engage and vote, for different things. Okay, I thank you very much. I already can see that people are engaging. Joel, Anastasia, thank you very much. Great. So I would jump into this right away. First thing is, actually, sorry, before we start, I would please ask our speakers to introduce themselves, because if I did it, I'm sure I would do a faux pas. So please, Fernando, if you could say 2 sentences about yourself.
Here we go. Awesome. Thanks, Shimon. So hi, everyone. I'm Fernando from N26. I work in product as head of premium portfolio. So again, super happy to be here. Thanks a lot, Shimon. And again, looking forward to have a great conversation about revenues, about data, and about personalization. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Fernando. Florin, if you could say something about yourself, please.
Hi everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. In the last years, I occupied different positions in banks and telco, and my current position is Chief Digital Officer. And from this position, I support my colleagues to implement an enterprise digital agenda across the whole organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Florin. Vincent, if you could please say something.
Yes. Also, thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to look into this interesting topic, because for the past few years, been working with ABN AMRO in the Netherlands, looking at new revenue opportunities, working with partners to enable new channels. And for the last 6 months now, active working on a PFM on Grip, and trying to actually provide a personalized experience for finance there. But we'll dig into that a little bit later. Nice to be here.
Thank you for joining, Vincent. Thomas, can you say a little intro about yourself, please?
Absolutely. Great to be here, and hi everyone. So my name is Thomas. I'm the founder, one of the founders, and the CEO of a small company called Subaio, who does a lot inside recurring payments. So we're on the side that helps bank realize some of these opportunities.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the introduction, and let's jump into the question. So first one is, so how do you currently do the personalization or personalized selling? Vincent, let's start with you because you already mentioned it a little bit. So how do you do it?
Well, There's a lot of ways, of course, we provide personalized experiences. I feel it's important to mention we have two main channels at ABN. We have, of course, a mobile banking app, and we have a PFM as well, Grip. And I think it's important we have one channel, which is, of course, a utility. People really use it to make payments. And in our PFM, we have a bit more space to create these personalized experiences. And one thing we do there, or I think a really interesting thing, is we provide insights to people, insights into their finances. How well did you do this month compared to last month? And did you actually end up having some money at the end of the month? And based on that, we can, of course, create really interesting insights. And that's really where we're going with this. We're trying to provide a relevant experience. We're working together with partners to, as Thomas also mentioned, working on recurring payments. And when people look at these recurring payments, because they're trying to get insight into those finances, then really we can generate offers for them if, of course, users consent to that. So another important topic, because personalized selling is, of course, at least within ABN AMRO, a laden topic. It's also stirred in a lot of legal challenges. We're really looking at providing users a personalized offer if they want, and that's really key to us. Is if users opt for relevant content, we provide it, but if they rather stay out of it, we feel that should also be possible. But really what we're doing in terms of personalization is trying to create a relevant experience and therefore generate actual interest on the behalf of the user.
This is one of the topics that I want to kind of touch upon as well. For example, morality and what is good, what is not good, what is over the line. Especially in the day of GDPR. That's going to be in the part of the data. Florin, do you already have some degree of personalization of personalized selling in BDR?
In BRD.
BRD, sorry, because
Yes.
check,
No issue. It's BRD, which is part of Group Societe Generale.
Right.
BRD is the Societe Generale subsidiary in Romania. Yes, we do, and we use in BRD already, let's say, what I call prescriptive personalization to anticipate a customer need based on historical data, which I think it's kind of the basic of personalization. You could find this kind of approach well back in the company's history. And we also started to use machine learning personalization, making use of intelligent machine learning algorithms to process the behavior. And what I think also it's important, just a quick remark here, is that we use personalization on both ends. And I think also the organization right now should still play the game on both ends, offline and online, because historically the branches and still are very strong in banking, and the banks and the banking system historically is designed to sell, is designed to service. Most of the employees in a retail bank lies in the branches, in the front end, which is more than 50% of the organization. And the personalization in finance and in banking definitely is not a new trend, because consumers are still visiting branches where they know the tellers on the first name basis, they are part of the community, they trust them, and so on. What's the new game, let's say, which has developed in the last 15, 20 years, is the digital end or the digital front end. And here is, of course, you should use different tools. But BRD is trying to play the game on both ends.
Interesting, right? Yeah. Nowadays, when everybody is pushing the digital, I almost forgot that we still have the physical, like the branches and stuff like that.
No, it's still there.
Yeah, and I think they will not go away for a long time. Let's see. Even the corona has mixed up with the cards, But true that. Fernando, what is your the approach of N26?
Yeah, thanks. So actually, I think it's a perfect segue into a couple of things here. So just talk about retail bank, and then N26 being such a disruptor within the mobile bank. I think we were talking a bit earlier about the concept of personalized selling, and I was just sharing that I'm not a big fan of this term, And I think it's exactly because of that. I think it's coined into an idea where people are just waiting to be sold certain things. And the way I see mobile banks today, such as N26, disrupting the industry, is really avoiding that mentality of I'm going to try to sell stuff to customers. I rather think of us as in mobile banks as serving customers and doing that in a very personal way. So the selling component, I think it's definitely taking the backstage and more kind of going into the needs of customers and how can we serve them, much better, even compared to those traditional banks and the practices that they do. Now, bringing all of that, like Florian, you were saying, all of that experiences online, I think it's a lot about really understanding the needs of customers and what's behind it, but also it's not just, bringing them online and trying to do exactly the same thing. I think when you go from taking that into the digital world, you need to reinvent it. You need to try to do it 10 times better than what it was before. But also at the core, thinking, do we really need this to serve customers well? Do we really need all this paperwork? Do we really need to all these processes? Do we really need all these confirmations and back and forth, etc.? And I think it's super exciting to see a lot of the mobile banks today reinventing how to serve customers in a new way. And I think a little bit the personalization comes into play, but more and more, I think we need to move away from that selling concept and into a serving concept. And we're here to fulfill the needs of customers rather than just trying to push something towards customers.
Yeah, and I think in terms of that change, when you're looking at not necessarily moving it from offline to online, is also that we actually have greater detail and greater knowledge of our users. If you come in front of a teller, even though you might be on a first name basis, you're not entirely sure, of course, what goes on for that user. So in that sense, we're also, I think, at least as within Grip, able to actually provide that increased relevancy. And that's indeed, I think, should be there to serve the customer. And really, if you're doing a lot of those engagements helping the customer, then at some point in time somebody needs something and you find each other, and then they come back. Because if quite simply your app is not being opened, or if you're going to become the secondary banking app, you don't even have that interaction. So I very much agree with you there.
And I'll just pass the ball into someone. I think there you mentioned the app, and I think at N26, like, we have so much care and so much attention into that app, because I really feel like the way we look into serving customers goes at the core of that UI and UX experience. And that does, like, it becomes maybe the central point in terms of, how we want to talk to customers and how we show our services to customers. So I think moving more from that push idea of, selling into almost like a pull from the customer himself when he's kind of going into, and how easy it is to discover stuff, how easy it is for customers to find what is relevant for them and to interact with the bank. I think that's going to be super, super key, and everyone talking about personalization these days.
Just a quick comment here, and I agree with Fernando, and I think that's one of the challenges for the banks or for the incumbents, let's say, not only for banking industry, but with telco and so on, is that for the companies which had a history in doing very well something, which is selling or servicing in offline area. Now you move in digital, and you are right, Fernando, it's not the same game, because you are used in offline to have the customer in front of you. And here starts the process. Now in the digital, you have no clue if you don't have the data and the right tools, where is the customer? Or the customer is on your website or your mobile app, but if you don't have the right triggers, events, and real-time processes there, is like in the real time, the customers will access a branch and nobody's there. The customer is there willing to do something, but nobody is there because have no clue that the customer is there. So definitely the game is different. I agree with you.
I'm happy. Very big insights already from the beginning. Of course, I totally agree. And nowadays, it's becoming more and more important to really make the customer happy. If customer is happy, everybody is happy. So yeah, Thomas, what do you see, or what opportunities do you see? How banks, challenger or traditional banks, could do a personalized selling.
Yeah, I think I can align a lot with what Fernando is saying. I actually have a background working many years for banks, which was one of the things that also drove me to start this company. And I saw this move towards the digital space where banks are very functional in the digital space, but becoming the advisor, becoming a service organization in the digital space did not really follow that movement into the digital. So I think there is a lot to be done here. The users expect help, and there is an opportunity to reclaim this role as an advisor, and let's put that in quotation marks, but someone who helps the customer in situations. Because I think at the same time, we're also seeing an area that is much more complex than it ever was, right? I mean, there is 100 different ways of investing your money today, right? It's not only one. Everything is extremely complex. And while we are geeks who live in this world of finance, we understand it. The consumers don't, right? So how can we help them in these situations? How can we explain to them the solution space that we actually offer them in the right context? I think that is extremely important. So of course we don't do personalized selling ourselves. We do help our customers realize moving into this space. And I think Fernando also said it. There's sometimes you have to do this pull and push. I really like that comment, because I think that is super important. This is not selling. This is something else, and it's not about pushing banners at the user. Sometimes it is. If you can't pay your bill next month, it might be a good idea to push that banner because you're helping them right now realize that, and selling them a solution that actually fixes that problem for them. But a lot of times you might actually want to be reactive, and just by using an overview where they can look at their finances, let them pursue the solutions, right? But offer them the solution space. Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is again beautiful idea of making the life better, and make the money at the end of the day as well. The question is, and we saw it kind of in media and actually all over the internet, that when the corona came, there was a huge boom. Everybody went digital, everybody went to digital and challenger banks because it was super easy to register. But then there was a lot of articles about, what about the business model and how do they make money? So here comes the selling into the role. So I'm curious, like, what are the products that, for example, bank can sell? And I would stick now, Thomas, with you to see the fintech point of view, because I think you've got the data that you can use, and stuff like that. What are the products that can bank sell to the customer?
Yeah, sure. So there are, I would say, two obvious domains that we are starting with, but because I think it's about a number of things here. It's also about what is possible here. You do have a lot of banks that are not extremely mature in their sales funnels for the different products, right? So there are some products that lean more into this. But I think one thing that has popped up that is really interesting is that customers buy a lot of products from different vendors, right? But as a bank, you actually understand that they do that if you look at your transaction data. So you can see they buy an insurance with another provider. You can see that they are investing somewhere else. So if you can just show that solution space that you offer, I think is an extremely easy win, because you still see a lot of trust in the brands from the consumers, right? And a lot of interest in doing something that is low risk. But still, you see most users are more interested in low risk, less bells and whistle. So I think you can offer a lot of conversion points, really, get them to transfer to your products instead. And then I really see these products that have immediate fixes for situations that users are in, which is both having too little money and too much money. Those are easy to work with, right? Yeah. One situation I had, if I may spend a few more minutes, is I actually was in the situation. I had a little too much money in one account, and suddenly I have this bad experience that the bank starts charging me, right? Because we have negative interest rate. That sucks. So the bank is just telling me constantly that they're stealing my money, right? By accident, I would say almost, I had a meeting with the guy who's taking care of me at the bank, and I mentioned this to him, and he had a very, very simple solution on this. But why was that not in the digital space, right? Why was I not presented with this opportunity? It was a very generic solution, really. Yeah.
Vincent, you wanted to add something to it?
Yeah, I would say we're gonna within the grip space, we're moving about it as in saying what we're really doing for a user is help them take care of their finances, and that means that yes, there's a financial product side to it, but there's more to do with your finances. You're paying utility bills, you're paying for your mobile phone, you're paying for all these other things. And we've been talking, I think beyond banking has been, before I started my career, it's been a topic coined by many people. But I see that really that's where we can help the user, because it's about all those finances and not only about our own products. I think that provides, really interesting opportunities for all of us, actually.
Yeah, I can actually talk a little about that, because I think it's really interesting, the monetization, the revenue side of it. So I mean, I've spent the last year really getting, in the nuts and bolts of subscription management and the premium portfolio at N26, and really what drives customers and users to choose a subscription, which is a really kind of for us a recurrent revenue stream, versus this free account option. And I think there's at the end of the day, you're going to find this fragmentation in the market. So different things will make customers opt for it. It's not like one size fits all, definitely. And you're going to find customers that pay a lot of attention, for example, for premium customer service. But then you find customers that really don't care about that. Where they really want to do is more on this financial education and how I can organize my money in a much better way. Now, the point here that I think also makes a lot of sense for all of us is, as banks, we need to find new revenue streams, and it's always a mix between what do we put in those tiers, or what do we put in those bundles that drive customers to opt, and then how do we monetize those customers on an ongoing basis. I think we constantly need to innovate, how we position things to customers, but also what goes in them. It's so easy as soon as you get a bit of success to start falling into the trap of, continuing to do it and just trying to perfect it. While for us, I think it's really in our DNA that always that step function change. And how can we really use technology to improve the experience for customers and the value we provide for customers. And I think that really needs to be kind of something that all of us as players in this field, reinvent a little bit the industry and push each other. Because at the end of the day, I think customers now, it's not so much like, oh, I have a bank and I'm going to stay with this bank forever. Like the ability to move and switch is here. And I don't think they'll put up with stuff that's maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago they would put up, because it's so easy to change bank. And I think there's so many new players out there. So I definitely think personalized selling needs to be as well something that where innovation comes to play, but also think of the long term, not just like, oh, try to get somebody just to buy something today. But I really like more to think about how can I turn this customer into an advocate. So sometimes I'm not interested in the short time sale. Oh, he picked a subscription. Great for us. No. I want him to pick a subscription, but I want him to use it, to love it, to really become an advocate, because that's where we're going to get real gains in the long term, not just pick it now and then forget about the customer later on. So I think these two concepts are super interesting. Love to hear what you guys think about this as well.
I think if I might add one thing to that, Fernando, I think that's interesting as well. I don't know if you know about prospect theory, but this idea that gains, the value perceived from a gain is decreasing very, very rapidly. So gaining $10,000 is not perceived as 10 times as good as getting $1,000. It's a lot about getting a lot of small, good, positive experiences in this space. So I think you're absolutely right there. It's not about selling the house loan. That's interesting for the bank, but you're not going to get an advocate out of it. You're just going to get a sale, right? Yeah.
Well, I would add something here, because I feel like when the question is which banking products or financial products are best suited, I would say that maybe the right question is, in which part of our lives do we make choices? Do we need advice? Do we need help? Or do we do financial decisions? Because if you start from there, you realize that definitely when you are going to buy something, again, yeah, when you shop something, that's a moment, a context of decision. And we like it or not, I saw Google data about the Americans. We said that almost 90% of the people in USA are shopping for something in any given 48 hours. So this is a kind of activity which is very often met, okay? So we like it or not, it's there. It's part of our lives. And then definitely for this kind of context, we are going to see, for example, a model like BNPL, where you mix online, offline, e-commerce, acquirer, BNPL service, you have lending and payments. So there are multiple products there, and card as a tool to pay, or you could have a point of sale experience. So this is a kind of context where you could make money because, yeah, that's the part of the business, and you have to support your business in order to give better services for the customer, but also you are in a clear need for the customer. Then you have what Thomas mentioned, is whenever you need to get best use of your money or earn more, definitely you are going to look at wealth management and finding their solutions which are designed for you. And here we have maybe some of the largest use of artificial intelligence-backed robot advisors from the market in the wealth management industry. Or you care about your safety, future, and you are going to talk about insurance and so on. So if you start from there, you could see that there are multiple services and products which really could meet your needs there, and the customer would pay for it.
Yeah, but I think so. That's about the initial phase, right? That's where you could do something new together with a customer or a user. But I agree that it's not fire and forget, right? It's not we sold you something, now we're good. I think it's very much also that relationship as we've been discussing. It's not a given anymore. We need to maintain that. We need to provide you continuous relevant experiences, allow you to actually manage that product and identify if there's something better we can do for you. We want to prevent those cases that Thomas mentioned, where you actually know as a financial institution or as a that we can do better. And I think that's really interesting, where we're not only coming up with the sales part, but also actually working on that loyalty. And I think that can be a lot of small interactions that actually have a lot of value for both the user and us as an organization.
Great. Here we've got a first question from target audience. Please, the rest of the people, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them during the presentation or during the discussion. The question is, I'm really interested in how data can be used to enhance personalized selling. How can banks use the data they have to provide better user experience for customers?
I can start picking this up because I think there's one part basically of a lot of the data that banks have is obviously the transactions that customers do, and there's definitely a bit of modeling that can come into place, which is the predictability of those transactions on an ongoing basis. So actually something which I find really cool that we've done is we've totally revamped our statistics module at N26, and we have all this thing about transactions which are still pending this month and transactions which have done. Now, I find it super interesting just to find what type of transactions I still have pending, like how much money do I still normally transact out on a frequent basis, so that I can look at my finances in a completely different way, which otherwise, I wouldn't have that insight. So definitely predictability of future transactions and managing the amount of money that I have on my account. We've had from research as well about young customers. They live with the fear of going below zero in their account. Like this is real. Now, protecting customers from ever going under And then obviously, the type of banking approach that some of our competitors use, which is, the credits and then penalties, etc. I think it has really flagged this in their minds. Now, again, the UI and the ability to provide those statistics on a real-time basis and to call out the attention to customers for this type of situation, I think it's super helpful for them and creates real value add in the interactions that they have with the app. Anyone else wants to add a topic on this one? Because I think data on is super interesting.
Well, of course, I'm a little. I have my own perspective since we are mostly focused on recurring payments, but I think it's an interesting aspect. It is one that represents purchases of products. A lot of them are bank products, and a lot of them can be used exactly as Fernando says to predict the future on your accounts, which is stuff we do. And I think there's a lot to be gained in that type of data. So, and I think it's interesting to use the data in a way where you help the user get an overview. It could be different types of overviews, and in that overview, then present opportunities. That's the way I would do it, not as a banner, but as a subtle information that here's something where you have a solution space that you could be looked at as well, right? Because the user is not always looking to buy something, especially on our bank products.
Love it. And again, going back to that principle of the subscription, like I love the concept of every time a customer gets charged a fee that they wouldn't have been charged if they would actually have one of those subscriptions, we as a bank should call it out and say, hey, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, did you know that, you might actually, not pay this fee if you choose this plan and this plan, rather than, hey, I'm happy to monetize you in the back and just, cut fees all the time. I mean, I read the other day something like in France, people pay per year around 200 euros in fees on average to banks, per 200 euros per year. And I thought that's just massive. That's just a massive amount of fees here and there, everywhere, an ATM, an overcharge, something. And I rather the approach of simplify pricing, get it upstream and inform the customer, be super, super transparent. And I think that's what we've done. And a little bit what's behind some of the success of mobile banks and N26 in particular is this transparent approach towards fees. Sometimes we charge fees, but I'd rather be super upfront and tell the customer, how can you avoid paying this fee?
I think capturing that intention, that's really key. And I think that's at ABN, we're also making our plans really simple. And that's one side of the business, but I think on the other side of business where we're looking at beyond banking, which is a key cornerstone of what we're doing within Grip, for instance. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to also through those recurring payments. I think that's a really interesting cornerstone of many of these of managing finances in the Netherlands. People spend about 55% of their money on average on recurring costs. So that's really something we can do something with. And there we can create the interaction. And what we're doing with Grip now is setting up helpers. So we create a small functionality saying, hey, would you like to have help in working on this? And then actually we get some additional data from that user so that we can provide an even better experience, more relevant and so on. So I think it's building tiers together with a user to see, oh, if you find this interesting, let's help you on that point. And really, of course, first getting that oversight so we can say, these are all the opportunities we identified for you to actually optimize your finances. Because what you mentioned before, I think it's about where finance previously has been really about backward looking, saying what has been there. It's really going forward. It's about predicting, about showing what's coming up and managing that, because that's actually where a customer can change something still.
Just a couple of comments here. Historically, definitely the fees had an important portion of the bank's revenue. But if you look at them in the last 10 years at least, the proportion just decreased because more and more services are free also in the bank's portfolio. Definitely the competition and the fintechs had a real impact in this area. But the trend is to lower the fees, or to have more and more services fee-free, and finding some other ways to bundle or to price the service. speaking about data, the real interesting thing also from my experience is that definitely you need quality data. Is essential for a good personalization. Yeah, definitely you need quality data, not just data. But the real trick here is that knowing what to look at and how to use it is just as important, because I think we have a lot of data and we can get more data. And if you speak with people on the business, they will say, yeah, I like big data, and open banking is going to bring even more data, and we just gather terabytes of data and data and data. The question is how you are going to use this kind of volume of data. And here is not only about technology, is not only having processing power or storage or things like this. It's about to imagine as a business people how you are going to make good use of this data in the benefit of the customer. And this is an intellectual process for you as a business guy. And I'm not going to, just a quick example, one of my favorite example is Netflix, because I just find out that they work with 80,000 micro segments of viewers. And that for me was a kind of mind-blowing, because we are still working with segments, some micro segments, but 80,000, it's just out of this world. And I try to understand, speaking about Vincent, about the books behind you, and how it's going to happen, or what are they doing? And they right now using all kind of data with the purpose to find out not only if you like, for example, the comedy movies, but comedy with talking animals, which are in a house near the beach. And this kind of contextualization and micro segmentation brings them to the level of understanding and serving their customers beyond our imagination. And I'm wondering, how it's going to look like the bank's system, a bank with this kind of micro segmentation, having all this kind of data. That's a sweet challenge for the banking system.
I think we don't necessarily need a whole lot of segments. I think the great interest is we have a lot of data, which I think with one thing that I would like, I'm curious about how our other people, Florin, Fernando, Thomas, you look at PSD2 data, because now of course you have data from users as a customer, but you also have data from users that are same people potentially or different people that actually use your app because they like the app better than their main bank or than their other bank. I think that's an interesting segment. But I see is if we're picking up on relevant signals in the data, then I don't need to know if you're affluent customer. I don't need to know if you're having 5 loans. I see a relevant interaction point, and what I'm going to do is actually raise that to the user and say, hey, is this something you want to engage in? And at that moment in time, I might not know a whole lot about you, but actually I'm going more for your interest necessarily than your personality traits. But that's at least an approach we're looking to use. But I'm curious how you're going about it, and also how you're dealing with the PSD2 data, and just way different angles there.
Do you want to say something, Fernando? Sorry.
Yeah,
Sure.
just building a little bit on the topic here, because I think we talked about an example like Netflix, and I used to work in media as well, and that algorithm of recommendation has become really their core business model, and making sure that customers spend as much time as possible in their platform, and this way to monetize through the subscription, right? The more time you spend on the platform, is directly proportionate to how much revenues you're going to pay and the lifetime of customers. So for example, now during lockdown, I have Disney Plus. So my kids have been constantly on there. I mean, perfect business model, a lot of time on the platform, subscription is there. I'm never going to cancel. So what does this mean for banks? And we talk a lot about personalization. So I think Netflix went into the personalized recommendations and getting that subscription monetized. I mean, you see companies like Google. I mean, Google's business model is built on personalized ads. basically, and everyone goes there so that, the best ad, the relevant ad in the right time, you display it, more clicks, etc. You have companies like Amazon, which the whole business model is built on obviously having so many products, but personalized shopping lists. You can really go in and I buy this and I see what other people are buying and I connect and I add stuff on my shopping carts. Boom, more transactions. Amazon cuts a bigger share of the profit from the customer. Now, what does this mean for banks? I think personalization is going to be at the core of the business model, is going to be at the core of how we're going to drive revenues. And I think more and more it goes to, Vincent, you mentioned, is the engagement, is how can we engage the customer in our environment through our UI, again, through our approach and user experience, so that you spend more time in the app, you find things that are more relevant, where there is real value for you there to know your spending, to know your finances. And I think this is the personalization of the access to the finances of customers. I think this is going to be key for us. Now, probably everyone has personalization in their strategic outlook. Any bank you talk to talks about personalization. Florian, you mentioned this. It's not new. But the key is going to be who does it really, really well and who can do it 10 times better than anyone else. So data is going to be key. Smart people is going to be key. Innovation, technology, a great engineering team is going to be key, because that's how things get built at the end of the day. And I'm really looking forward to see what's coming next in the industry.
And who's gonna be that?
Just a quick comment here,
Right.
and I just want to support what Fernando said. And I think that because I have an extensive experience in delivery and building digital products, is that in the business teams, the agile business teams, which are working together, IT and business people and so on, very rarely I saw people from data, being part of those teams. It's like we have product owners, you have engineers, you have testers, you have UX, but in this kind of game, talking about personalization, a data guy there is as valuable as a person who is doing digital marketing. So that would be a complete team. And then the people which are building the product or exposing the products to the customers are really going to understand how the products are used by the customers there, having people and data there. And then definitely the banking is going to look better. I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think data. Oh, sorry, Thomas. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Sure. So I think it's great what you're saying, Florian. I think a lot of this, that there's so much data, and you can also approach this from a data perspective and end up with 80,000 segments. But at the end of the day, how is that going to change the user experience? And if you don't start there, you're not going to get something that's personalized. You're looking at it from the bank perspective, right? I think a very low-tech way of starting looking at this is rather contexts, right? What are the contexts the user can be in? Solve the context, because that is personalization at the end of the day. That will be experienced as personalization, rather than start from the data side. Not to say that I completely agree with you that data should be involved in this and understand it, because that's where you're going, understanding your data, right? Understanding your users as data points. But I think there's a very pragmatic and simple way to start personalization.
And I think that leads into what we've seen over the past half year. And it's actually been working together with you guys at Subaio, that if we bring things to a contextual environment that's relevant, where people are thinking about those things, then you see that there's much more intent of users. They want to engage with those potentially commercial offers, but also other engagement opportunities. But I think that engagement for us at Grip, we're not looking for as much engagement as possible. Actually, what I think what personalization should do is as little time in app as possible. You know what you can do with us, you know what you get, or we tell you what you could get. You come in, you make it happen, and you're done. Because we know nobody likes finances. So, let's not keep the users in our app. Let's just give them what they want, make it happen, and then disappear again. And I think what we're trying to do is, because we can make this very practical, right? It's a nice idea or a nice vision. What we're saying, if you want to get insight into your finance, a lot of apps say make budgets, look at it every day, track things. What we're saying is, no, once a month you come in, we gather all the relevant actions for you. You work five minutes a month and you make it happen. It's not more than that.
Just a quick comment here, and just because Vincent said that people don't like so much finance, I would say that finance. I mean, if finance is not personal, I don't know what it is. Because clearly it's a personal subject, but definitely it's not TikTok. Definitely it's not entertainment. So I just remember that 10 or 12 years ago, the banks tried to reinvent the branches, and they brought designers and they tried to build like Apple stores or Star Trek branches. And I saw in Milan, in Paris, in Madrid, big banks, which is incredible spaces, But the customer didn't go there because it wasn't about how the branch was looking like. It was the fact that they didn't have the need to be there, which is a different thing. And I wonder, talking about apps and spending time there, if we are going, or maybe, I don't know, we might leave a moment of the branches 10 or 15 years, because the app is the branch in digital. It's your space organized in a way to manage your finance. And you are going to spend time there as 10 or 15 years ago you went to the shop or to the branch. And I wonder if we are not going to be in a kind of model that it doesn't matter what was the app like, because in an embedded finance ecosystem, and talking about metaverse or this kind of digital world, the services are going to be well around and not so structured with an ID, password, and so on. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Guys, let me just quickly jump into it. I had a set of the questions, and you were such a good speakers that you answered almost all of them. So I wish I had more speakers and panelists like you. We've got let's say roughly 15 minutes for till the end of the panel discussion. So I'm just want to encourage the attendees to ask any questions. There will be still some room to answer the questions from attendees at the end. But for example, what I'm going to do right now, ask another question from audience. This is really interesting topic to me, because a lot of Sesh is asking. I will wrap it up into hopefully a short story that everybody is trying to offer everything, and then you might end up overwhelming the person, right? So how do you basically create a balance between like having enough features and enough personalized offerings that the person is not overwhelmed, and yet you don't lack the personalization. It's still not enough personalized. Hopefully the question is clear. Apparently not. So I will ask the question from the session. I will just read it. So every institution likes to have a customer buy every service from them as one-stop shop. However, how do you strike a balance between simplicity and yet a seamless experience from them each time they buy one? Because with the more services, the complexity increase. Thoughts?
I can jump on it, and then would love to hear what my panel guests also think. So this is here's the thought. Not everyone wants to do everything, and I think this is going to be critical. So you do see players saying, "Oh, we want to be the super app of finance. We want to have everything." All marketplaces, full integrate with everyone out there. You can get an insurance, you can buy a crypto, you can save for your retirement, you can do your taxes, like anything, right? But you have other players that really want to specialize in something and be really good in something. So I do think that, number one, it depends on your mission and your purpose as a business. Not, like 100%. I do see players going in wanting to integrate, but I see players wanting to do something unique and do it in 10 times better than anyone else. And that's a little bit, I think, where even at N26 we talk a lot about, if we're going to go there, let's do it 10 times better. Let's not just be a player. I don't think there's space for just a player. Now, in terms of that engagement, and I just wanted to come back to it because it was such an important, Vincent, you were mentioning as well about, hey, we're happy to have one customer coming in once a month in the app, see what he wants, simplify, keep it clear, he goes out. And I do think that that's definitely a segment. And serving that customer is going to be super important. But I also find, again, going back to that innovation kind of DNA, we're thinking of finances very much on a one-to-one basis. It's me, my finance, my money. But what about when you go out, for a dinner and you want to share a bill? I mean, there's immediately an interaction. You can just say, hey, instead of doing it all cash. I mean, how many people are walking around with cash in their wallets these days? I don't remember. I think last time I paid for cash was, to buy chestnuts on the streets here in Vienna. But point is, I mean, it's not happening these days, right? So that easiness of you going in and, let me just share the bill here, bing, 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 on the spot. Or, you want to go on a trip and you want to make sure that you're insured, so you just go and, interact with your mobile app that way. I think more and more you're going to see different cases, which probably weren't there in the past. And you start seeing them today. Now, the trick, like you said, Shimon, is how can we not make it overwhelming for customers? And then it goes back to amazing design, amazing UI, really get to the bare bones of that experience, because it so easily can get overwhelming. And I think the best and the players that are going to stand out are the ones that find that special sauce in terms of how you display it to customers, all of this complexity in a super easy way.
Yeah, my car has a GPS, right? And when I run out of gas or almost run out of gas, it starts telling me where to find a gas station, right? But it doesn't do it before then. Kind of the same way you can use these signals. You don't have to have them visible all the time. I think this is very much about, again, finding out these contexts and then showing it in the context. And as Fernando said, not banners, right? I mean, just showing it as opportunities, showing that there is a solution here that you can use if you're interested. I think that's one of the ways to create it without overwhelming people, right? And I think one thing that for me was interesting is when I saw all the neobanks come out, there was a lot of belief they're going to completely revolutionize. But I think they revolutionized it in a different way, not by adding a ton of different new features, right? It's not like N26 has a ton of different options, right? It's very, very clean. It's very, very simple, as I see it. That's my perception of it, Fernando. But I think there is a lot of positivity in that, and being good at what you're super, super good at, right? And making it clean. Do you do a lot of this contextual changes for users?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do it, and I think this banner approach where you say no banners, but banners if they're contextual. I think this is something that we've spoken so much at N26 in the last year in terms of how can we move from this static view to a more contextual view. Again, put something in front of customers that they're interested in, not just put it in and keep it there always. I think that interactivity and interoperability is going to be super, super important. I love this contextual, 100%, and definitely I think we're all going to go there. But again, it's just the first step, right? Doing it in the best way, making sure that you don't have to click 20 times in something to activate, or that it's so smooth and intuitive that you don't need to explain to people how to do things, that they'll just discover it intuitively on the app. I think even today, if you look at the services that mobile banks offer, right? There are already so many. And again, goes back to, there's so many possibilities that what customers can do on our app today, and definitely with your services as well. It's about how we can do that in a way that explains customers in a very intuitive way. And I agree with you. It's not about putting everything in front of customers. It's about finding, the right time for the right product in the right way and definitely driving that.
Vincent, it seemed that you wanted to add something, or not?
I'm pretty much in agreement. I believe that ultimately simplifying the experience is a key driver. I think, as Fernando alluded to, I think it's a very strong UI and UX area where just by design we can make things easier for users to understand. And I think it's also working within that context, but also providing insights and details in more bite-sized chunks. People want to read it in TikTok-like fashion, right? They want to understand it in a couple seconds, but then still they want to know, is this really what I'm looking for? Because I know that there are 100,000 options out there, so I really want to dig in because this decision might be important for me. And then it's providing that real depth, then it's providing that expertise. And I think one thing that we're proud of as ABN is doing video conferencing with advisors, for instance. Then it's providing those kind of opportunities to really dig in and really go deep. So I think there's a space to go for all that detail, but it's not on your front page.
Just a quick comment here. I would say that in many ways, simplification is about also about what not to do, not only about what to do. And many times we like to build things because it's something which, as humans, we like very much, and it brings us a lot of satisfaction just to build things, new features and new products and so on. And we cherish them and we get in love with them, and we like very much that we do many things and put on the market. But hey, some things are going to be used and others not. So from my perspective, it's great to test things, but as a product owner, you should be ruthless with your products. If they are not going to be used, or not so much used, or not anymore used, scrap it, because this is the way you are going to keep the product all the time relevant. Of course, you are going to have some usage there for almost everything, but it's not important. I mean, it's a big difference between a feature used by 80% of the portfolio and 5% of the portfolio, or every day, or someday, or in highly unlikely and exceptional situations. It's good to be there, you know? That's more like old people mentality. Let's have it there. You never know. Maybe you are going to use it someday. But so part of this simplification and keeping things tight, refresh your app very often and just scrap it ruthlessly in a very disciplined manner. Well, things which maybe worked yesterday but are not going to do it anymore.
So honestly, we have gone over all of my questions that I have prepared for you. There are no more questions from target audience, from the audience. So I would use this few last minutes for you if you have some final remarks that you would like to share with us. Anybody, Thomas, for example, if you want to add something at the end.
Why are you singling me out?
I'm a motivational quote or something like that. No, I'm joking.
I don't think I do. No.
Okay, cool. Anybody else, or are we ready to? Let me just to end this. Let me just check. Somebody's writing here. Nah, no more questions. Okay, I would like to thank you everyone for joining as listening to us, tuning to us, or you speakers, panelists, or you guys for sharing your thoughts, sharing your experiences, etc. with us. And I hope we will have a chance to meet once again in the future and talk about and reflect on what we were discussing here, and how we have moved in time.
Awesome. Hey, been a pleasure, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope as well the people listening to us also had, I think, so much fun as we had here, and all the best. Happy to stay in touch as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Thanks
Great.
all. Really appreciate it. A lot of new interesting insights. Thanks all.
Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.